Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about carb loading. And what I want to do with today's episode is try and give you a very simple 101 type plan to make sure that you get your carb loading right. This is very much a entry position. So it's for if you've done a lot of carb loading in the past and you're very familiar with it, especially if you've worked on it with a nutritionist, you don't need what we're going to be doing in this episode. But if you kind of just one of those people who just tries to eat a bit more pasta a few days before a race, this is going to really help you dial in your carb loading and get the benefits of it and do it more precisely. But look at it as a starting point. You will have to iterate on this over time. I'm going to give you very specific instructions. Obviously, that's going to leave out some of the nuance that will be necessary, but it'll give you a really good starting point. Now, before we get into that, what are we talking about here? Okay, so carb loading is trying to get more of your calories from carbohydrate in the 2 or 3 days prior to a long race in order to top up the glycogen stores in your muscles. You can think of it like filling up a fuel tank on a car. And doing this helps you avoid bonking on race day because you ran out of carbohydrate. And that's why it's so common among distance runners to do this carb loading before a race, because that helps them top up the glycogen. That means that they're much less likely to run out of glycogen and carbohydrate during the race, which means bonking is much less likely. So it does help improve performance in distance races over a certain length. And the nice thing is here, it's very much like low-hanging fruit. So if you get your carb loading right, you will do better in a half marathon, marathon, or longer distance than you would if you didn't get your carb loading right. So you don't have to train any harder or do anything extra. Just get this right and you will perform better. Now, because I want to make this much more simple than it usually ends up being, and people often get this wrong, what I've done is I've created 2 resources for you to download that are in the description. One is a carb loading calculator, and in there you're going to be able to put your race distance, your sex, male or female, and your weight, and it's going to tell you exactly what to do with your carb loading in terms of how much you need. We'll get into that towards the end. Then in the carb loading plan, you're going to plan out your meals for the day and then take the numbers you get from the spreadsheet and plan out exactly what you're going to eat to make sure you hit those numbers. But before we get into that, let's just do a quick overview of what we need to do the carb loading for and how it's going to work. So what races do you need to carb load for? Well, anything shorter than 2 hours, so think 5K, 10K, anything like that, you don't need to carb load for those kinds of events, and it won't actually help you to do it. Once you get to longer events, anything that's going to take you like 2 hours or more, then you want to do carb loading for those events because it will help you improve performance. Now, for the half marathon, usually a 2-day carb loading period is good. If you're doing a marathon or anything longer, you want to do 3 days of carb loading in the days prior to the race. Now, like I said, we'll get into the specifics of how much of everything to eat in a sec, but I want to talk about the type of food that you need to eat during your carb loading, because these are some really, really common mistakes and they're easy to fix, and you'll get much better results out of your carb loading if you fix these mistakes by eating the type of foods that are more appropriate. So I've divided the foods up into eat more of these, eat some of these, and eat minimal amounts of these. So what we're going to do is go through like meals, snacks, and avoid in that order. So for meals, we want to have mostly these foods. So we're thinking potatoes, pasta, rice, and oatmeal. Very bland, lots of it. For your snacks, so you're going to have some of these. You can have things like cereal, bread, bagels, fruits and veggies, candy, not chocolate, and sports drinks. And then we want to avoid or have very minimal amounts of the high fat foods. So think the big ones that runners always get wrong are like creamy pasta sauces, full of fat, not a good idea. Pizza, that's another one. Lots of fat in the cheese and the oil, bad idea. Things like muffins, cakes, cookies, baked goods, baked sweets, chocolate, those kinds of things, again, very high in fat, and they're going to take up room that you need to use for your carbohydrates. So again, the backbone of your meals during that 2 or 3 day carb load is going to be those really bland, boring carbohydrates: potatoes, rice, oatmeal, and pasta. Lots of those things, very minimal amounts of the more tasty stuff that is higher in fat. So things like sauces, cheese, pizza, muffins, cakes, chocolate, ice cream. That's not good either. And we also, generally speaking, want to try and avoid takeout food or restaurant food, which isn't always practical if you're traveling, but as much as you're able, don't eat takeout food or restaurant food because it tends to be higher in fat. They put the fat in because it makes it taste better. And a good rule of thumb is the blander and more boring your food is during the carb load, the better you're doing. And the more tasty and desirable it is, the worse you're doing. Now, we do expect a bit of weight gain during this carb load period. However, that's not because you're gaining fat. It's because you're gaining water weight. So what happens when your muscles fill up with glycogen, which is what we want, that's your fuel, they also pull in water at the same time. And we also want that because that'll help keep you hydrated for race day. You can use that water during your race. However, that's going to make the muscles denser, which is going to mean that you weigh more, but it's not fat. You haven't gained fat weight. You've gained weight in terms of glycogen and water in your muscles. This is a good thing. It's going to help you perform on the race, and you won't keep that weight. Anything up to about 5 pounds during the carb load is fairly normal. And the other important thing that I was certainly guilty of not doing earlier was rehearsing the carb loading. So this really, really helps, and I can't recommend it strongly enough. 6, 7, and 8 weeks prior to your race, your goal race, you want to rehearse the carb loading. So for your long run at the weekend, mostly, you will do it. The 2 or 3 days prior, or the 1 or 2 days prior to that long run, you want to do the carb loading plan that you're planning to do on race day so you can get used to it. You can get used to eating the food. You can get used to preparing the food. You can add things up and make sure you have the right amount. You can figure out if it was too much of something, too little of something else. And then you can iterate on it as the weeks pass until you gradually dial it in. So on the carb load for the race day, you're not having to do anything new. It's all things you've done before in the weeks prior. Okay, now the final part, which is the most tricky part, is how much carbohydrate do you need to eat per day and how do you actually do that? So the general rule of thumb is to hit about 8 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram per day for each of the 3 days on your carb loading period. Now, the tricky part about that is if you work that out, like for me, that's 631 grams of carbohydrate per day, each of those 3 days. But I don't know what 631 grams of carbohydrate looks like. So that's where it's difficult to actually implement. What I find much easier is to use the palm size method that I picked up from Precision Nutrition, which says when you're going to measure carbohydrate, you're going to use handfuls. So handfuls of carbohydrate. So now I need to know like how many handfuls of carbohydrate I need. And so that's what I've put in the calculator. So not only will it tell you how many grams of carbohydrate you need per day, it'll also tell you how many handfuls of carbohydrate you need. So you can just like pick up the pasta or the rice or the cereal or whatever it is and measure it. And it's much, much easier. And you can also just look at it and estimate how much it's going to be. So if you're watching the video, you'll be able to see the carb loading calculator I've got up on the screen at the minute. But don't worry, because in the links in the description to the carb loading calculator and the My Carb Loading plan, there is a video explainer that shows you how to do this. So even if you're just listening to this, don't worry, you'll be able to see it live. But I just want to go through the example. So in the first column, it says race. So I'm just going to choose, is it a half marathon or a marathon or longer? So I'm going to choose marathon or longer. Let's say I've got a marathon coming up. And then under sex, I'm going to click male. And under weight, I'm going to put my weight in pounds of 174 pounds. It's going to tell me the duration of my carb loading period, which is 3 days because it's a marathon. It's going to tell me my grams of carbs per day target, which is 631, like I just said. But then it's going to break that down into handfuls of carbohydrate to make it easier for me to actually plan it out. And then it's going to separate that into meals and snacks. So we have one column that shows I need 15 handfuls in my meals and another column that says I need 6 handfuls in my snacks. And then it's also going to display on there what are some examples that you can use for meals. So I need 15 handfuls for meals, which is your pasta, rice, potatoes, oatmeal, the things that form the backbone of the carb loading. And then the snacks, I need 6 handfuls of carbs from snacks. And that's where I'm going to use things like fruits and vegetables, breads, bagels, candy, sports drinks, and that kind of stuff. Then I'm going to be able to go over to the My Carb Loading Plan, which is just a Google Doc that you can copy, and it's going to help you plan that out in terms of 6 meals. So it'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a morning, afternoon, and evening snack. And then you're going to plan out how many handfuls of carbs you're going to have, and then you're going to select what you're going to actually eat, so you can write it all down, and that makes the rehearsing of it during your training much easier. And then you can edit that as you do your rehearsals until you find what works for you. Like I said, if you're listening to this is a little tricky to follow along with, but just click the links in the description and you'll see a how-to video linked in there that shows you how to do it in real time. So have fun with that. Plan out your carb loading, use those resources so that you know exactly what to do, and then get that low-hanging fruit, avoid bonking, improve your performance, and smash your next race.